All right, good evening. I've got 7 p.m., so I will call to order the regular Board of Education meeting of December 10th, 2025. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Richards, if you'd be so kind.
Yes. Mr. Sunnyberger? Here. Mr. Powers?
Here.
Miss Berkmeyer?
Here.
Mr. Vinatieri?
Here.
Richards is here. Miss Knox?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Present. We have a quorum. At this time, I would like to make, actually entertain a motion to amend the agenda. And I would like to remove item C, the Student Congress update, and item D, the culinary presentation, as today was a snow day for us. And those two people who were going to handle those two items are not here. And then I also would like to add under item 2, new business, field trips, be letter C under field trips there, a deck of field trip that you all should have in front of you that was just dropped on us yesterday, but I don't see any reason to wait till January, especially since it involves flights. So I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I will make the motion.
Second. All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Powers to approve the agenda as amended. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, sir, could you call the roll?
Miss Knox?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger?
Yes.
Miss Berkmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri?
Yes.
Richards, yes. And Mr. Green?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on down the agenda, item F is the superintendent's update. Superintendent Jankowski.
Okay, Mr. Sizemore is going to pull up my presentation. Just wanted to touch base on a couple things. Next slide, please, Tim. So one of the things that we've been doing, like today, actually, I should mention, we had the bid openings for the next major phase of the bond construction. That's the construction at Ashley, Nalderett, and Middle School South. The preliminary numbers are pretty good right now. So over the next few weeks, they go through all the bids, kind of make sure that they're matching and all that. But the top line numbers seem pretty good. But while we're waiting for those to come back, we're already looking at the next phase. Next slide. So just kind of looking at the next. So yellow was the middle school reconfiguration. We're kind of building towards the redistricting in fall of 2027. And you can kind of see this is the bulk of really the all the work at the bond. And like I mentioned, click just once, Tim. You have Ashley, you have Nalderett, and you have Middle School South that will be having work done. And then we've already started the preliminary planning meeting with the staff at Great Oaks. Click one more time, Tim. So that's coming in line. So we'll have 4 buildings. And then the original plan was to have, click once more, Tim. Then 4 more buildings. So this would be work at McCants, Lighthouse finishing the last phase to make it the early childhood center, McDonald to reopen McDonald, and then Lottie, depending on, because if you recall, depending on early childhood and if they do 3-year-olds, we might need that depending on overflow. So we're constantly kind of checking where we're at with the timeline. Click one more time, Tim. And so there's been changes that we kind of monitor as we go along. Click again, Tim. So elementary enrollment has gone up. This was something, this has been a good surprise. Like I mentioned in a previous board meeting, that if we had not moved 5th grade out, we probably wouldn't have had room. We've had much larger class sizes because we didn't have space for those. However, that's creating kind of by moving them out, we were hoping that we could kind of help with the construction by consolidating classes in certain areas to free up wings. So we're looking at that. We also have the state did continue with the 4-year-old preschool. So we're at about 240 students in that program. And click again. 3-year-old is, they didn't say no to it, but it's in a pilot program. We just don't know what the pilot program is at, a 1 year or 2 year. It's really going to take on the budget. So we're kind of holding out to see is the blip that we saw at the elementary, because most districts are not seeing an increase at the younger grade levels. So is this a one-time thing, or is this a trend or something like that? Same thing with the 3-year-olds. We're trying to see how that goes, but we are kind of looking at some contingencies to kind of help with the process. So click again, Tim. One of them is to look at Lighthouse, because we can fit our current universal preschool programs in the Lighthouse with just the 2 wings and ECSC in the wings that are there now. So we're looking at possibly kind of putting it off till we see kind of where the state comes down on that. And same thing with Lottie. We were anticipating if they were going to approve the 3-year-olds the very next year, then we'd see that kind of rolling up. That's been a slower roll than kind of what was initially said. So that would still give us the ability to kind of use Lottie. It would kind of delay Lottie changing by 1 year, which would give us just more flexibility, especially if we see an influx of kids. So this is, again, none of this is like kind of set in stone. We're just looking at options. So then that way we would still have that buffer that if it's a bubble of kids going through, we could kind of keep that. And then if not, it just gives us more freedom. The other thing is to look at, click one more time, is potentially moving the McDonald's, trying to pick up pieces of McDonald as we do that, where, and it's mainly just the uncovering the lockers. There's the 2 classrooms that were turned into showers when it was a dorm and so on. So it's not major work like we're seeing at Ashley or at Naldred. It's just kind of getting this building, starting in that process online. One of the things that we know, they've changed some guidelines where before they changed the guidelines, like we could have potentially reopened this building as a school, but now since it hasn't had students in it, then we have to go back through. So we would probably have to upgrade the fire alarm system and so on, kind of what we did in the other buildings where it's voice, it has the voice instead of just the alarm and so on. So looking at that in mind, these are some of the things that we're looking at with just the bond timeline, just to give us flexibility and hold those decisions till we know, because we don't want to put money into these areas if we don't know if the state's going to kind of what their timeline is on all of that. Questions on any of this?
Can we plan to schedule some building committee meetings in
Yeah.
the early part of next year, given that we're going to be rolling into, some new?
Yeah, so this will be
Useful.
in January. So basically in the middle of January, we'll have all the bids from the first one, and then we'll do that as part of the building site.
Phil, do you think that you're going to see 200, if 3-year-old preschool is added, do you feel like you're going to add another 240 students to the district? Do you think it's going to be a larger response?
It's hard to tell because we anticipated typically, if you look at, we usually have like 380 students in a grade level. We were anticipating having about 80% of that, but the state's been in fits and starts on everything because like this year they got a slow, because the budget was delayed. We didn't know if they were going to expand the 4-year-old. So we don't have a good handle on that because they've never had it on like a cycle. Plus getting licensing it has taken up to 9 months where it used to take weeks. And then same thing with getting the additional seats because they release them in batches of 16. And that goes through our intermediate school district. We're trying to get the whole MyLeap to streamline that and just give us the seats because they have them. You have to apply for them, then they have to wait, and then you get them late. But I anticipate that we would probably have similar on par. We are anticipating 300 for each, 300 for 3-year-olds, 300 for 4-year-olds.
So you don't think that you can fit 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds and ECSE into Lighthouse?
We could potentially, it just depends on it. Like we're looking at it. I don't know if we hit 300 and 300, we probably wouldn't be able to that and ECSC.
Okay.
much larger, much smaller class size, I should say.
With E ECSE.
With ECSC, and even with your childcare, it's like 16.
16 is the max,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Are we responsible for transportation for 3-year-olds?
You are not.
No.
They have a grant that they offer that you, if they continue that is, it's a categorical. We are for E ECSC,
But not our 4-year-olds currently, right?
but not, no.
Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, next slide, Tim. Just wanted to kind of revisit this because this will be something that we'll kind of talk about tonight. That going back to the 31 AA funding, and it's been all over the place. There have been 2 actually it's multiple lawsuits, but basically the intermediate school district, then some individual school districts, and then I believe they also had a group of parents that sued based off of the 31A funding and the waiver privileges and so on. That on the federal level and on the state level, those have the last hearing that they had, basically the Attorney General office represents each of the branches, so they issue basically an Attorney General to kind of defend the legislature, to defend the MDE, defend the governor. 2 of those, the MDE and the legislature, were like, we're not going to challenge it. We understand. We kind of knew it was a drafting error. So the governor is the only one that's kind of still defending that. So there was a hearing. They basically came to an agreement that they would hear both cases. The federal and the state would kind of be fast tracked on the same timeline. Districts can opt in, then they have until tentatively opt out by December 30th. And after they make the decision, they're basically saying they will have a decision for both of those by December 19th. So that's kind of a discussion, is to do a resolution potentially to allow for that, because that's the last day before break. And then it'll probably take Monday or Tuesday to kind of distill all of that down, figure out where we're at. The big concern is there may be an appeal by the governor's office. If there is an appeal by the governor's office, then that would kick it down. Then they would probably extend all of these deadlines as well.
Are the lawsuits essentially questioning the constitutionality of what
Yes.
they're trying to do? That's it. It's not
That's-
questioning,
Yeah.
whether or not they have the, the legal standing to do it, or for damages. It's simply whether or not it's
Just
a
the constitutionality
constitutional.
of the waiver of privileges.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, a question about that. So we had to have undone our opt-out by December 4th. Is that now, if they change the law and they decide that it's not constitutional, can we still get these 31 AA funds if they?
You cannot opt in after that. We did do the opt in pending for the thing, but now it's because it doesn't go solid until December 30th.
So how do we opt out then? If
So
it
then
doesn't
at that, you
prevail?
just go on, you click it's basically they have a thing, and then you opt out or you do a resolution. So
That's not something that, or would the board have to come and convene to? opt
no,
out,
so
or
that's
is that-
part of, we'll just discuss the language of a possible resolution saying if this, and this fits kind of what the board wants, then we would continue, we'd stay in. If not, if these conditions are not met, then you
Okay.
give basically, it's basically Todd who does the form, the permission to opt out or opt in based off of that.
Yep, that makes sense. And I understand that there's been less than 20 school districts in the entire state of Michigan that has opted in for this originally.
Yeah, originally it was less than 20. And then the last that we were told was still only like a third of the districts didn't even opt in under this.
Okay.
Part of that was, as part of this agreement, they were supposed to make it reflect that. And everybody was expecting that on the MDE application website, because part of it is the other half of the law is they have to provide the funding by December 30th. That's where that date kind of comes from.
Mhm.
But so they would issue the funding to the districts but then they have to claw that back. And so we were expecting to see something that said, hey, if you're doing this and you opt out, you are allowing us to claw that money back. They did not do that. And so that's where it's kind of unclear. But the interesting part is because it wasn't like they had a battle over this. They agreed on this timeline. They just didn't follow through on that piece of it. So, but it'll go to court. December 15th is the actual hearing for both. And then the 19th, they're supposed to have the decision. Yeah. Okay. And that is all. Thank you.
I have a question about
Yeah.
the timeline on, so we had a board meeting on November 12th where we passed a resolution to decline to apply for the 31AA
Yeah.
funds. As Mr. Venditelli pointed out, the deadline to opt in was December 4th. There was no board action between November 12th and December 4th. So who opted us in and on what authority did they opt us in? If we're now looking to give the business office the leeway to opt out if the lawsuits don't go favorably, how did we get opted in? Because I'm not aware of the board making that decision.
Well, basically, with what we had, because it's not a set thing, the decision is now kicked to the 30th. So we went ahead to do that, as I shared in kind of one of the updates, and in order to not have to call a special session so that we could do this. And we ran it by our legal counsel, and they said, you're okay because you're still, the final resolution by the board was that you're not going to accept those funds. And so by that previous resolution, you're still covered.
Okay, but somebody opted us in, and by opting us in, they made a decision on behalf of this board for us to waive certain privileges, and we didn't consent to that. Right?
Yeah. So basically, it was to keep the options of the board open.
Okay. I guess I just don't understand how somebody can opt us in and we not make that decision. Right? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Or
Yeah,
not?
no, I
Yeah.
understand, but it didn't run against what the resolution was because you have till the 30th now for that final deadline.
But the only resolution that we voted on was to decline applying for the funds. Somebody then opted us in. That's what I don't understand, how somebody did that and on whose authority they did that.
Well, basically, as I kind of explained, in order to keep options for the board.
Okay, I mean, I guess I'm not okay with that. I guess there's 6 others that have to decide if they're okay with that. I would have thought it would have been more. I know special meetings are inconvenient and not ideal, but to me, that would have been the more appropriate way to handle it. And I guess if we get to a point where we need to redo this, we have time between now and the end
Yeah.
of the month to then have a special meeting to make a final decision.
It
the
really
law-
depends on how you phrase kind of the resolution. So we have an advised resolution from our attorneys that we'll go over in closed session.
So
Okay.
likely that discussion and motion would take place tonight after our closed session.
Right. I just, again, not to beat a dead horse. The only action we as a board took was to not apply. And now here we are 3 weeks later being asked to amend a resolution to be able to opt out of something that we never voted to opt in on. In fact, we voted to do the opposite. So I just don't think it was an exercise in good process. Yeah, go ahead.
So for clarity's sake, we voted to not accept these funds and
voted not to apply for the funds.
right. Thank you for clarifying. So we voted to not apply for these funds. We opted in to keep our options open. Let's assume at the end of this meeting, there's been no change in directive.
Mhm.
And hypothetically speaking, we get a favorable judgment and 31AA comes with no strings attached. Because the board has decided still not to apply for those funds and, for whatever reason, decided not to prepare for any sort of alternatives in future, would that then restrict the district to not accepting those funds because they haven't heard from the board's changed opinion in terms of what they
Yeah.
want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have any options at that point.
Okay. So we would at that point then deny the funds.
Yeah, you would not be open for them.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I think I understand what happened on both sides of this, but I would agree that I think a special meeting should have been had, and it seems like by opting in while you're keeping the options open and the board can still decide to veto that or undo that either way. The act of opting in went in direct violation of the resolution that this board passed. So I think that was a poor judgment.
I mean, I'll just add that when we voted on the 12th to opt out, the extended deadline of the 30th of
Did not
December
fit.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I think once that changed, I think it did make sense at that point to opt in, because then you always had the option of opting out if the lawsuit didn't end favorably. Again, I think that should have been a board decision, especially when the board specifically voted not to opt in. So that's all. I'll clarify that I understand why it makes sense to opt in, given that the circumstances changed. So I'm not disagreeing with opting back in while we wait for the lawsuit results to come back. But again, it in my opinion, should have been handled in a different way.
Anyone else? Anything else?
Yep, that's all. Thank you.
All right, item G is hearing of the public. Those who wish to address the board on agenda items must complete a brief request stating their name, address, and their subject to their comments. Remarks about specific employees should be directed to them personally and not included in the public forum. Administration will follow up with concerns within 48 hours of the board meeting. Participants will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. I don't see anybody. I haven't received any forms, so we're going to continue on our agenda to item H, which is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are of a recurring nature and are voted on as a single item. However, any board member may request an item be removed without a vote of the board, and it will be discussed and voted upon individually. The recommended action is that we approve the consent agenda as it has been presented to you.
Can we pull out the minutes, please?
Beg your pardon?
Can we pull out the minutes, please?
Sure. All right. So we will pull out the minutes of Wednesday, November 12th. Yeah. Okay. So we will discuss that as a separate item after the consent agenda. So that means we'll be approving the personnel report, the financial report, and the bills payable for October and November of 2025. So I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Vinatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, or concerns on those three consent agenda items?
Can I ask for some clarity, please? We have lots of Amazon expenses listed on our expense reports all the time. Do we have any guardrails in place so that we don't get soaked with discretionary pricing, dynamic pricing, excuse me?
Well, we have a business account, so then that typically provides, I mean, we look at more than one place than just Amazon when we're doing that.
Right, but Amazon uses dynamic pricing, and if we order Sharpies, they might cost us $30. If Richmond orders Sharpies, it might cost them $8. So I don't want, like, there's lots of money that gets lost within that dynamic pricing. Are we cognizant of that? Are we doing anything about that?
Yeah, whenever we do supplies, so typically we'll look at like REMC bid, which is the state bid site, and then we try and beat that price. And if we can through Amazon, then we will normally do that. We have looked at, because Sherry and I sometimes will like look at things as we're going through that going, hey, we can find it at a lower price. I mean, it's not exactly for the dynamic pricing, but we'll look at it through two different lenses. Yes.
Any other questions on that before we move on to a roll call vote? Hearing none, Mr. Richards, if you'd be so kind.
Sure. Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer, Mr. Richards is yes. Mr. Green?
Yes, motion carries. Per your request, Mr. Sunnyberger, what direction would you like to go in with the minutes of Wednesday, November 12th, 2025?
Last month, I made in my opinion, a great argument against the Gaga Ball pit issue, and somehow we had me voting for it. So if we change me to a nay on the minutes, I'd be happy to vote for them.
So you're indicating that the minutes are inaccurate for the change order for the Gaga pits, that as opposed to you being an aye, you were a nay.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so I don't think that's a huge issue. We can move you down to the nays with Richards and Green. Was Richards a nay on that, just to confirm?
Richards was a nay.
You were a nay, okay. So the motion will still carry, so it doesn't really change the outcome. But that change has been noted and we will have that changed in the minutes of that meeting. So I would entertain a motion with that change to approve the meeting minutes of Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. If anyone is so inclined.
I'll
Go ahead.
make the motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Mr. Sunnyberger, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Since we're making a change in past meeting minutes, any other conversation? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, if you could call the roll on that particular item.
Mr. Sunnyberger?
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Richards, yes. Ms. Knox?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes. All right, moving on to new business. Under item 1, field trips, we now have 3 items under that category. Jazz Weekend will be at Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant on February 5th and 6th, 2026. Jonathan Carruthers will be traveling with 6 chaperones and 20 students. The request is the Board of Education approve the jazz band field trip to CMU in Mount Pleasant, not Mount Clemens, Mount Pleasant, February 5th and 6th, 2026, as presented. And you guys should all have that field trip request in front of you as part of your packet.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I will second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next on our list of field trips is another jazz trip for the Jazz Ensemble. Guess I should have worn my glasses today. The Jazz Ensemble performing as a demonstration group at the Michigan Music Conference, January 22nd and 23rd, 2026 in Grand Rapids at the Amway Grand. They will have 20 students and 4 chaperones attending. The request is that the Board of Education approve the Jazz Ensemble field trip attending the Michigan Music Conference, January 22nd and 23rd of 2026 as presented. So I would entertain a motion to that effect as you have the field trip request in front of you as part of your board packet as well.
I will make the motion.
I will second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Comments, questions, or concerns?
Sorry, I'm not seeing the ratio of chaperones to students. Maybe I'm just not.
I
Maybe
think it
I'm
was
blind today.
20 to 4.
20 to 4. Okay. Yeah. That's
20
fine.
students for
Or
Chaperones.
chaperones. All right, so hearing no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And the last item that that you approved to be added to the agenda is item C, field trip for the DECA Sports and Entertainment Marketing. The DECA students will be traveling to Orlando, Florida, January 28th through February 1st of 2026 for the Career Pathways DECA Educational Conference. They will be traveling with 20 students and 2 chaperones, 1 male and 1 female. The requested action is the Board of Education approve the DECA field trip as presented for January 28th through February 1st, 2026 to Orlando, Florida. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Powers, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, or concerns?
It's a little close. What's the breakdown? So we're gonna have a male chaperone and a female chaperone. Is there like 17 female students and 3 boy students, or how does that breakdown work?
That I'm not aware of like the exact number of how many.
Okay. My concern is if we have, assuming they're probably gonna stay in a hotel somewhere,
Mhm.
like 2 or 3 different hotel rooms with one female chaperone trying to watch, or vice versa, 3 rooms of boys and one male trying to watch all of them could be a little bit too much for them to handle. So I guess I'd like to approve it. I just like to add a little strings attached, making sure that there's a fair enough ratio for someone who can watch if there's a certain vast disparity. Because I know there's two chaperones that include the instructor as well, deck
Mhm.
coach.
Yes.
Okay. That might cut a little close. So I'd be open to, if you guys are so inclined to amend it, just to make sure that we have at least another, say for example, there's 12 female students, we have another female chaperone who's available. However we want to word that, to the kind of just make sure that there's no issues with this field trip.
Well, I think we've been pretty consistent about 10 students per chaperone. So I guess I would agree with you that if we have 18 males, 1 male chaperone, 2 females and 1 female chaperone, that's a little bit that goes kind of against where we've always been with this 10 to 1. So what's kind of the board's pleasure there? I know we need to get this approved because I got to buy airline tickets. Can we put in a caveat, Mr. Jankowski, to add or to make sure that the ratio balances where we're comfortable?
Well, I think we've always only talked about students. We never really, categorized a male student versus female student. So to me, the student is a student.
I mean, that's
So
certainly.
you're comfortable with the way it's written?
Well, all these going, in the past, to me, we've always done, based off of student count versus chaperone count. So, if now we're going to start amending or making amendments to, to the request to, especially with this trip, now that you have 18 or 17 female students, we require you to have, 2 female chaperones, if we're going to make changes, I think we should try and do that at the beginning of a school year, when these requests come through. So that's just my 2 cents. But at the
That's
same
fair.
token, if they do need a second male chaperone, it's going to be pretty cold here. I'll go.
These meetings are recorded, right?
Sure.
Okay. There's no auctions that week down there, sir.
Kiss Me's the first week.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Any other comments?
I agree with Mr. Richards. Beyond being in the actual hotel room overnight, there's no reason to have males and females separated out. The male chaperones can chaperone just as well around Florida and all of that. So yeah, we don't have that as a stipulation, just that there's enough to handle 20 kids.
10 per, right?
Yeah, 10, yeah.
So I guess I would probably agree with Mr. Richards' thought is that if we're going to implement something like this, we probably should look at doing it beginning of a school year.
I
Mr.
think I'll
Powers?
just also add, I understand the concern. I guess I have two remarks. Number one, I think if Mr. Yono thought that there was a great disparity that would cause some issues, I think he would probably be the first to tell us. And then secondly, I just don't know that we want to go down a rabbit hole of tracking genders on field trips and this gender and that gender and all the perils that could possibly come with that. So I think the simpler the better, and I'm perfectly fine with it as written.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Hearing no other concerns, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Field trip is approved. All right, let's move on down to item number 2 under new business is an award recommendation for abatement. Anchor Bay School District received bids for abatement for future bond projects beginning in 2026. It is recommended to award the abatement projects to Building Decommission Services, BDS, in the amount of $187,600. The recommended action from administration is that the Board of Education approve the contract to Building Decommission Services as stated in the amount of $187,600 as presented. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Powers, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Comments, questions, or concerns?
I do have one question. On the contractor's letter, he has two different bid prices. He has his base bid amount of $137,600, and then he has total, including allowances, at $187,600. I didn't really see it itemized, like what his allowances that would equate to, or that would total this amount versus his base bid amount. So is it his bid 137,600, or is it his bid 187,600? I know on here we're awarding it at the 187,600, but do you know?
Yeah, typically what we do, especially in situations like this, where they test, and then they test a percentage of the areas to figure out what has asbestos. And then there's always areas that's like, okay, well, this might be, or we might come across something else. Like kind of, I'll give you the good example was with Lighthouse when they were doing the flooring, because they did
Right.
core samples all around, and then when you actually tear everything up, you might come across more. So then they're like, I think it's this. But if we have to do the entire thing, it's going to be this.
Right.
And so that's where we build the allowance in case.
Right.
But it could be the lower amount. It just will not
Right.
exceed that.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Well, that's, I saw the same thing, Mr. Richards. So do we want to amend our motion not to exceed 187,600? Because I don't want to, we've all talked about change orders coming back in front of us, and so what's the board's pleasure there? Any change to the motion, or is everyone content with how it's written?
Well, if it changed, we would need a change order anyways,
Yeah.
right? So the guardrail's there.
Sure.
So I'm fine with it as written, but I'm also fine if people want extra security in the language.
Right. Is it safe to say too, the way that he has his language in here, that that's his total, including allowances? So he's already anticipating possible allowances for the 187,600?
Yeah. So that's just, if this tends to be more as we start to dig into it, then
All right.
that's what it would be.
Anyone, anything else? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, if you call the roll, please.
Sure.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Richards, yes. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 3, closed session. The recommended action is the Board of Education approve to move to closed session for student discipline / reinstatement pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Section 8B, and a legal opinion and collective bargaining strategy pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Section 8C. I will also add, while I'm entertaining a motion for that, if it's the pleasure of the board, I would prefer to remain in closed session until we cover all of the topics, as opposed to come out and take any action in between. So if someone is in agreement with that, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Mr. Vendatelli, supported by Mr. Richards. Comments, questions, or concern? It's the first time I've heard that today.
This is recorded.
Hearing none, could you please call the roll, sir?
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Richards, yes. Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. With that, we will move into closed session at 7:38 PM. All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion to come back into open session if somebody is so inclined.
So moved.
Jinx.
Oh,
Motion
Support.
by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vendatelli. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, call a roll call, sir.
Ms. Knox.
yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Richards, yes. Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. We are back into open session at 10:34 PM. At this time, I would entertain a motion if any board member is so inclined as of a result of our closed session discussions.
I would like to make a motion concerning student number 10172 to grant them conditional reinstatement, with the conditions being continual academic progress in online school, and to set up a reentry meeting with the middle school South team. And the effective date of reinstatement would be January 5th. However, that meeting that we're requesting would be December 18th or 19th.
All right, do I have a second for that?
I will second.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll move on to a roll call vote, sir.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Richards, yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Another motion, any other takers?
I would like to make a motion concerning student number 04837, granting them conditional reinstatement with the following conditions: to set up a meeting for reentry at the high school. This would take place on December 18th or 19th, and to become involved in extracurricular activities. Reinstatement would be effective January 5th, but as I said, the setup of the reentry meeting would be December 18th or 19th.
Do I hear a second?
I'll support.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Ms. Berkmeyer. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, sir, on to a roll call.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
No.
Mr. Vinatelli,
Yes.
Richards, yes. Mr. Green.
No. Motion carries. All right, moving on to our agenda, unless someone else has something else they'd like to make a motion on. All right, hearing none, we will move on to item 4 and begin with our points of pride, and we will start with Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Congratulations to Anna Gillespie, who earned a full position in the MDBOA All-State Band, and Elijah Aguilaro, who earned honorable mention for the MSBOA All-State Band. I'd like to recognize Amanda Plague from the Middle School South. She recently performed the Heimlich maneuver on a choking coworker during lunch. Truly remarkable. Thank you. Thank God she was there. Anchor Bay is looking for multi-trades helper as well as midnight custodians. Come join our team. Congratulations to the 4 Anchor Bay softball seniors who signed their college commitment letters: Avery Roulette, U of D Mercy, Layla Hudson Peralta, U of M Dearborn, Haley McDonald, Oakland University, and Ashley Davidson, Saginaw Valley State. Congratulations. Save the date, January 29th is Anchor Bay Career Pathway Open House from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the high school. Congratulations to Middle School North Student of the Month, 5th graders Sophia Schur, Jake Kaepernick, Ireland Crown, 6th graders Alyssa Davy, Isabella Sawyer, Cole Godfried, and Teddy Johnson. Congratulations to Anchor Bay Captain of the Month, Jen Pratari. Jen brings compassion, dedication, and joy into her classroom every single day. Thank you, Jen, for everything you do. School's canceled, so this kind of doesn't really matter. Tomorrow was the last day of the holiday buffet at the Shoreliner. We have maybe a rain check day for that. Yeah. All right, we'll to be determined rain day. This is more for the board. I believe in January we're going to have a board election. Is that correct?
Yes, we have our annual election of officers, organization
Right.
meeting.
So just want to kind of put a little reminder out there for everyone. Congratulations to the Anchor Bay JROTC Color Guard drill team on their 2nd place finish at the JROTC Championship of Cass Tech. My points of pride this month would probably be congratulations to Miss Hurley. Last month she was named the WNIC Teacher of the Week. Thank you for everything you do, and congratulations. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Berkmeyer. Mr. Sunnyberger.
First of all, I'd like to wish all of our families in Anchor Bay a safe and exciting holiday season. I made a fuss earlier about the Gaga Ball stuff because after last meeting, I still think that we should be sending our CTE students out into the community to do as much as they can. And I actually did a quick search for what other communities are doing with their CTE students. And we're getting out in the community, and the other communities are having the students build a tiny house that they're actually selling in a sealed bid process, and they're going to reinvest all of those funds for future student built homes. There's communities that worked on Habitat for Humanity build sites. There's a community in the UP who built a custom outdoor communication board for elementary school students to help support students with autism and other communication challenges. And I think we could really be at the forefront of this kind of activity. And I'd like to see that even carry over to other things like artificial intelligence. I don't think we have a robust artificial intelligence program, and I think we could. I think it would pay lots of dividends to be a leader in this area as opposed to a follower. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Powers.
I spent, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but I spent the better part of the day at Naldrit for the Future Learning Council visit. And it was my first opportunity to see CBE in person. And it was incredibly impressive. We see spreadsheets and PowerPoint slides and presentations about it all the time, but to go see it in person, especially for someone, who's 50 years old and, never saw anything like this in their years in school, it was pretty remarkable. The things that stood out to me the most was number one was the alignment, whether you were talking to the classroom teacher or the instructional coach or the building principal or Heidi, the vertical alignment was seamless. They were all 100% aligned, and it showed not only in your discussions with them, but in going from classroom to classroom. It was very impressive to see. The other thing that stood out to me was when you got into the classrooms, you've got 20 some students broken up into 4 or 5 different groups of 4. And the teacher can only be with one of the groups. The para can only be with one of the groups. And in every classroom, you had several groups of students working together without an adult, taking complete ownership of whatever they were supposed to be working on, working together, helping one another out. There was no goofing off. There was no distractions. There was no not paying attention. It was just to see 8 and 9-year-olds take ownership of their education like that was something that I was really taken aback by. And then as you talk to the students, they have their binder. I don't know, it's got an official name. I can't remember what it's called, but you name the subject, they can tell you exactly, here's everything I've learned. Here's everything I've kind of passed my qualifications for, and here's what I need to work on. Here's where I'm coming up short, and here's my plan to get there. Like it was very, very, very impressive. So, the staff and the teachers were very honest and transparent about the struggles and the bumps along the way, but that they believe in it and that they believe that, the end goal is worth it. So hopefully we're setting up, the steps for success as we roll this out through secondary as well. So I was very glad that I got to see that in person, and I would just encourage anybody who hasn't to make a trip to one of our elementaries to see that. And then the only other thing I would say is possibly our last meeting of the year. So if it is, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Tom?
I'd like to echo what Mr. Powers said. I didn't have the opportunity to attend the same event, but for with regards to CBE, standards-based grading and CBE, frankly, is a lot more sophisticated than the traditional grading scale. Imagine going to the auto mechanic and you ask him what's wrong with your car, and he says, "Oh, it's broke." Like, well, there's your B minus, or D plus, depending on your perspective. But if you have, for example, metaphorically speaking, the CBE and SBE standard, you go to the mechanic, same situation. You ask what's wrong with the car, like, oh, well, the transmission's going bad because the gasket's broken on the backside. Something more specific that's more actionable. And with the ways that the grading structure is set up with SBE, with CBE, you're more able to take action, to identify and take action on those very specific areas that might be causing a kid to not succeed in that specific subject. So I think it's a much more highly sophisticated system, which is a very good thing, very good direction to be going. So yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you guys in January, hopefully. That's all I got.
Ms. Knox?
My point of pride, I would actually like to thank Mr. Powers for bringing it to my attention was, our school was on WJR School Talks, Principal Mackenzie, teacher Kristen Anderson, and then 2 high school students, Cameron Barbier and Aiden Becker. And I listened to the whole thing and I was very impressed with Cameron and Aiden and how they represented our school and themselves. And it was really nice to hear when we have students being put on the spot and asked, questions. It was specifically about our away for the day cell phone policy and how it was going, and they found it very favorable. And anyways, that's a point of pride, is that they can put them out in the wild and they still do well.
So I will kind of dovetail off of that. Today I was at a local eatery, and in walked a very young police officer in full uniform. And it turned out he is an Anchor Bay grad recently that had just graduated from the Macomb Police Academy today and was beginning his training in a small community here in St. Clair County beginning Monday. So I thought that was pretty awesome. It was exciting to talk to him. It was exciting to talk to him a little bit about his experiences at Anchor Bay, what led him to go into law enforcement, which is an area similar to teachers and nurses that is struggling mightily. So a quick shout out to that young man. I appreciate what you're doing. Our communities need more young people that are interested in going into these high demand careers. So, Mr. Jankowski, legislative update.
As usual, there's not much going on in the realm of education policy at the legislative level. They did kind of announce that their plan is to have the budget now done by July 1st because they need the campaign next year. So that will start right after the holidays.
And committee updates. Does any committee chairs have anything to share? I'm not sure if we've met recently on anything.
Just policy.
Policy. Any notes that we want to share from policy? Nothing important? Not, still working on some stuff?
Yeah, we talked about a couple different things. We are working on a survey, district survey for the staff. Mr. Jankowski gave us a couple options. I don't have it. A couple different options. Actually, I have one right here. The Ed School Climate Survey. So we're putting together a group of questions that we're going to give to them and put out the survey. So it's coming together.
Oh, very good. I know there's some committee meetings coming up, right after the new year. We've talked about finance getting together, building getting together. As Superintendent Jankowski shared, we're going into probably the largest phase of our bond spending and the most construction. So I anticipate, monthly meetings where we're getting together to talk about how things are flowing. And the building committee is talking about what we're doing and what may work, what may not. So I don't think I have anything else unless somebody else has anything else they want to add. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vendatelli. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Meeting adjourned at 10:48 PM.